folks. Welcome to episode 30 of Biomassed, and we've got a pretty we've got a pretty short show for you tonight. By short, I mean maybe 3 to 4 hours. Who knows? We've got a pretty all-star luminary cast for you tonight. A who's who of PR men, con men, tinfoilers, random escapees from the Wonder Years, as I'm looking at Soraya, prognosticators and fabricators, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to get some shout outs out of the way. Tonight we'll talk a little bit about a few different topics, some war barge stuff. Like there's a lot of discussion about what, pray tell, will the war barges do in the future? Does that only mean they affect PC, or do they affect other things, not just not just PC, but general gameplay if they ever come in, that kind of jazz. A little bit about some of the, what sound to be some interesting twists with the weapons that they may be bringing in as part of the war barge discussion. We've got one guest who has a burning desire to talk about his hatred for the kill assist mechanic, and I'll let you guys figure out who that is here shortly. And let's see, we are going to have some discussion maybe about what might be some good ideas that CCP could pull from Planetside 2 into Dust. Or if you listen to one of our co-hosts who will remain nameless, sounds like worm tongue, that will probably spill venom and invective all over the Planetside product, which it may be fair. I don't know, because I'm not playing the current iteration of Planetside 2 myself at this moment. But we'll get to find out what Soraya thinks about that as he's playing it live and probably getting owned on it like he gets owned on Dust on a regular basis. So with that, let's go ahead and walk right into some not shout outs, although we could time warp into that. I think we're going to get started with some intros. Let's do intros, because intros is the thing you do as you introduce the show, as opposed to shouting out when you're getting the fuck out of the show. So we'll start at the top of the list. BAMM HAVOC, start us off, brother.
Hey guys, it's me, Bam. Yeah, just a guy. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Beer and bacon for life. Yeah.
Okay. Iron Wolf?
Did anybody check to see if Wolfie was actually here before we actually started?
He was.
Wrong button. Okay.
There he is.
That's a common thread in your gameplay, isn't it? Wrong button.
Yes, it is. CP1 council member, secretary, and he's here to hang out tonight.
Okay. All right. Kane?
Former CPM member of CPM 0, just a Dust player these days.
Awesome. And Pokey?
Pokey Draven from OSG Planetary Operations here on Biomassed.
Cool beans. SMB?
Yep, SirManBoy here, one of the directors over at Molon Labe, member of CPM 1, logistics specialist, DOM enthusiast, and supporter of all things Team Deploy.
I like the cut of your jib, sir. Soraya?
Yeah. So I'm Soraya, a CPM 1 member and co-host here on Biomassed. I am going to be trying Planetside 2 on the PC version live during the show and commenting on it occasionally. It took me a bit to figure out how to start the thing. I'm Soraya on the US East region server Emerald, which is the only server that doesn't have a low population.
Okay, and I'm Jason Larison. I'm one of the co-hosts here on Biomassed. I'm with OSG Planetary Operations, and in the Eve side, I fly with Agony Unleashed. Let's see. So we're gonna kick off into our kind of our normal segments, that we normally do with the CPM updates, and like I said, we'll get into some of the topics we touched on earlier. Before I get going, as I'm looking at my silent co-host is over here next to me in his brand new black and gold Kalaji PJs, my wingman Parker for the evening. So that would be my 6-year-old, just so everybody's tracking. So at some point I may have to go AFK as he hits his cloak and goes into Betty by time. But until then, we have an extra co-host with us. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off to a CPM update, and I'll turn this over to Soraya, Iron Wolf, and SMB. What massive, incredibly ground-shaking news does the CPM bring us yet again this week?
It's a quiet week.
No shit. And the silence that you don't hear, because we usually edit that out of the podcast, but we just had this good 10-second pause there. That's the sound of the CPM update, as usual.
Yeah, I was just wanted to say that their CCP is really busy this week with the getting their toy shipped out and ready to go. Then they'll work on all the numbers afterwards since they can do that now.
Can you say that again? What are they shipping out?
Shipping their latest toy out.
Are you got to help me out here? Are you referring to something that may or may not be getting uploaded onto Dust?
Well, remember in the old patch cycles that how things used to go, and basically still somewhat are the same, is that when they develop a patch, they have to submit it into Sony for
Oh yeah, I got you. Okay.
for qualification. Well, that they're getting really busy and they're knee deep into that, trying to get it shipped out for Sony. But they're not as worried about numbers as they used to be, because now that is something they rather would hotfix up to the last day before it comes out.
Oh, okay. All right. So have they actually announced when the next patch/releasey thing is, like the actual date it's coming out?
And not yet, because like I said, it's still up in the air.
But
Okay.
if they've already submitted it to Sony, though, that puts it at an early to mid-February release, though, more than likely.
Cool. Yeah, I was assuming it was probably like a 3 to 4 week turnaround once they turned in their homework, so to speak.
And that's what they estimated on the roadmap, anyways, was early to mid-February, if I remember.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I take it that's all from our illustrious CPM members on all things CPM. I actually do have a question that I know you're going to tell me it's NDA or you can't talk about or some other jazz like that, but I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm trying to be helpful for the community. Is there still nothing you can talk about the future of having a CPM 2?
As far as we know, we expect to have one. That's a standing, I mean, that's like a goal of every CPM is to ensure there's another CPM.
Okay. Alrighty. I guess that'd be one of the questions then, is at what point they might, like have any kind of mention of it or something like that.
I'll tell you what. I'll get a meeting with CCP. We'll try to get a meeting with CCP Prime, and we'll try to get that hammered out.
Yeah, and like I said, the only reason I'm asking is because it is, kind of is getting into CSM season, which, I know we don't run necessarily parallel to the Eve track, but it's, like I said, it's in the build up to FanFest. So acknowledge that we're not going to have anything said at FanFest about Dust or Legion or, whatever collectible trading card game they're building now. But I did think it was kind of pertinent in terms of this is about the time we started ramping up last time. So at least getting an idea of what the, kind of the time frame or the scope was going to be for the next round of CPM, if there was going to be one. And the fact that you guys sound kind of positive about it, I'll take that as a good sign.
So one note is that Planetside 2 does actually have a tutorial that steps you through the gameplay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there's like a whole trail of rooms where it's like your allies have little blue triangles over them and your enemies do not, and that is how you can tell which are your friends and which are not.
Wait! Allies have blue triangles over them?
That's what it says.
Not if you change the colors.
Well, it's never been like that on my UI, and I played it like last week, and it's still not like that. It still wound up killing 20 friendlies because of it.
This is on the PC version at least.
Yes, PC.
Okay, so it's got basically your standard FPS tutorial kind of like walkthrough training setup thing.
Really basic, like, you can move your mouse up and down to look up and down.
Mm-hmm.
It starts there. So I keep having to alt tab to Skype, so I haven't made a lot of progress yet.
Okay, all right, that's cool. Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to take one of the easy topics first, just because it's easy and it's handy. And for the record, the way I'm reading the list of guests, Kane Spero's name is dead middle, so it's easy for me to aim center mass. So because I aim shittily. So Kane, tell me why you hate kill assist.
It's not that I hate kill assist. It's that I was on squad comms and heard some people talking about Battlefield 4's assist system, and it sounded amazing. And I did some research into it, and to talk to some people who played with that assist system, and it just sounds like a dynamic system that's kind of well tuned, really. The basic gist of it is currently we get plus 25 for an assist, 50 for a kill. The way that Battlefield 4 does it is it gives you assist points based on percentage of damage, and once you cross a certain threshold, it then gives you a kill, an assist that counts as a kill, is basically what it works at. from what Godin, I've been talking to Godin who plays Battlefield 4. He says that it used to be 75%, but now it's down to 50. So let's say in our game, you did, a whole bunch of damage, you could get up to like 50 points. You could get up to like 49 points for an assist. But if you get like, a high amount of assist points, you actually get a kill counted as well, in addition to the person who gets the kill shot as well. So basically you're rewarding teamwork, and you're also rewarding the person who puts in the work killing somebody.
That's not bad. I mean, I've never really looked at recalculating the like the kill assist mechanic in Dust too much, but yeah, I mean that sounds like it'd be pretty cool to do.
The thing that got me thinking about it was the with the notion of keep what you kill becoming very prevalent, and being in some of the roadmap posts and stuff like that. It's because killing becomes a financial aspect to it. It seems that a better way of tracking some of the minutia that maybe goes into a kill may be warranted. That way if somebody does 90% damage on a target but somebody else lays the final blow, maybe they share the pot in terms of the ISK value of that kill and those sorts of things. I think where it probably would play in to a large factor is in installations, vehicles, that kind of stuff. I think it could be an improvement. Whether or not the Unreal 3 engine can handle it, I don't know. Maybe. Because if you think about it, we have some pretty complicated point tracking mechanics, like with the dropship transport rewards and things like that. So I think it might be actually possible, but I don't know if they can do it or not. But if they could, I think it would be a pretty good improvement.
It never occurred to me that the way the numbers shake out right now was ever unsatisfying, but I'm definitely open to ideas that make the game better and that the community responds to. The only thing that I would be curious to know is, do you get some kind of weird like double dipping statistical action in a system like that? Like if you've got two people getting credited for a kill on the same kill, how does that shake out in the end when you look at the like end of match screen or something like that?
Well, from talking to some people who actually play Battlefield 4, you do in fact get two people that get a kill stat on their statistics. So I don't know, whether that's a good or a bad thing. It's up into the air for me. To me, the more important aspect of it is the war point rewards and potential ISK rewards if moving to a keep what you kill kind of system.
I mean, like I said, conceptually, it sounds okay. Certainly not bad. The things off the top of my head in terms of war points, you definitely need to probably readjust the war points, for like war barges and that kind of jazz. Just because we have a lot more ways of generating war points now than we used to. I think just kind of writ large. So that and that's a minor thing, just trying to adjust those numbers. And there's always debate about the numbers of types of war barges that you have and the points it gets to it. So there's a little bit of that I'd be kind of concerned with. In all honesty, I actually think that I'm relatively okay with the system now. Like I don't think it's broken. So like making the addition that you're describing, well, again, sounds very viable. I don't know that there's a huge crying need for it. I will tell you this though, what I would actually like them, perhaps as an incremental step, counting kill assists instead of just having your kill death and war point in the end, have like a kill death, with like kill assist and then deaths. No, by the way, deaths should only count if your clone bleeds or you terminate, not if you're picked up. And then maybe something like like revives or point, like damage healed or something like that, where I think you get a little bit better idea of where you're stacking at it and what your personal performance is. But that's just me. Like I said, I don't think the system we have is necessarily broken, but I like what you're describing. I've not played Battlefield 4, so I'm very much not familiar with that.
Yeah, for me, my thing is if the target is down, I'm a happy camper. Especially, there's nothing worse than a tank getting away. So I like it when if the target's actually neutralized. To me, that's a happy thing. But it did seem to add a little bit more nuance to the system. But in terms of assist, though, I would love to have KDA on on the stats, though, because some people put up crazy numbers of assists, and that's really not tracked at all. At least not in terms of the leaderboard. Now, how valuable the leaderboard is from player to player varies a lot. So, I mean, some people that'd be a big deal, others not as much.
No, I think that's a very fair statement. It really depends on what you get out of the end of match screen as an individual player. How about that?
All I heard from Kane Spero, should I say, was, I'm a happy camper. You heard it here first, folks. Kane Spero's a camper. Yeah.
I agree with the system overall because it's going to help with new players overall. New players are more likely to be making a lot of assists instead of getting the kills because they don't got exactly the skills or the stats to overcome some of these other players' HP values. So it's definitely it's a step in the right direction to do.
FY, the tank explosions in Planetside are really, really tacky.
You mean like the ones that we don't have in Dust?
Dust looks more realistic.
No matter how much time you try and stick up the Dust, you can see that the Dust design is showing its age compared to the Planetside 2, sadly. It's showing its age. It needs to get changed to Legion. Hurry up, I want Legion.
Alrighty. So let's... Anything else on the reworking of the kills, the assists, and the deaths, and all that kind of jazz? That is no shit though. That's actually a... it sounds like a neat idea. I'm not sure that I would want to put. I would advocate for dev time to go on that versus a lot of other things right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. If somebody dips into the code and it's like, oh my goodness, this would be a nightmare, then no, it wouldn't be worthwhile doing. But if it was something that was relatively simple to do and improved systems, like the keep what you kill subsystem and stuff like that, then I could see it actually providing value. I think you would need to dovetail and work with another system that is being introduced into the game for it to actually be warranted to be worked on, not in a vacuum.
Okay. All right. No, I'll totally buy that. So let's bridge over to kind of our next segment, which is kind of the, I guess the topic du jour right now is war barging in Dust. Now, the way I am reading a lot of these posts right now, which are, there's a couple good meaty ones, but it's very, there's a lot of speculative commenting, some of which is very good, by the way, from the community on what war barges are, how they should work, and what do they touch, and all this kind of stuff. But they are very much the heart of the new PC. Now, what I would like to do is not delve into a master's thesis on PC, because we've crushed that one, and until we get something I think more concrete from like an actual iteration, like a feedback iteration from CCP, I'd like to kind of stay away from that as much as we can. But just the war barge itself and what it can offer the player is kind of what I wanted to structure the conversation on. So I'm going to open this up to you guys because I think some of you have put a little bit more, definitely some more work into this than I have. Like I know, like Pokey and Kane have been really looking into this quite a bit. I think Iron Wolf, you as well. But my first question, and I'm gonna pose this as a series of questions to you guys. Does the war barge matter to the player if they don't play PC? And I'll leave that one open first.
Short, yes.
Yeah, definitely. From the way Rotati's talked about it, the first phase of the war barge, I don't think really has any direct impacts on planetary conquest. It's all directly on individual mercenaries.
Okay. So any benefits or the additive nature of the war barge would be regard just your normal operations in either pubs, fac, war, or PC. Okay. Got it. That was a good question. Now, I guess my question is, this is one of the parts where there's been a lot of discussion. How do you get a war barge? Does everybody start with one? Do you have to earn one? How does this work?
As CCP Rotati answered, everyone gets one.
Okay.
So they're just free. You just have one.
Yes. Yeah, but it's gonna start at level 1 and it's gonna be crappy.
Essentially, from what reading into it though, is instead of having a merc quarters, you have a war barge. Now the thing is, I think everyone's really hung up on the old concept of a war barge, especially if you look at the 2009 trailers and stuff like that, where you have something that's the size of a Titan, And from where Rotati's coming from on this perspective, on this the situation, it really seems like it's a much smaller ship. It's like a shuttle essentially, but it's just using the same nomenclature. That's why we're getting mercenary barges now, and then later on, there's talks about like the war barge flotilla or the corporation war barge. I think some of the lore aspects are getting people really hung up because of how long we've been thinking about war barges being these super crazy, huge, monolithic kind of vessels.
Well, I don't know the name of the map, but the map where it's kind of a square map with the construction site with the ship that's being built standing upright in the middle, that's supposed to be a war barge, right?
No.
Almost.
No.
No, it's not? Oh, okay.
No.
From what I was hearing, I thought it was supposed to be a war barge.
I was going to say,
that is closer to a rocket than it is anything else.
Ashland is like a rocket to launch. Like I always thought it was based on the PI structure, because there's a PI structure in Eve which looks like a rocket launch pad for shooting resources up to orbit.
I don't know. If you think
about
it,
I figured it was modeled off
like cruiser, it looks like a stabber, like a Minotaur stabber.
If you think about it, though, if in line with kind of what Rattati is saying, though, about barges being a small personal thing to start off with, I mean, who's to say that that's not what your barge, something of that size, which is bigger than an MCC, maybe that's how big your barge starts off with.
That's what I was getting at, is the size looked appropriate.
Well, in theory, your war barge would be carrying MCCs at some point, or at least like the bigger versions of the war barges would.
Well, yeah, the corporate ones, sure, are the ones that carry the MCCs.
Okay,
but
well, let me. Before I go into it, because I can nerd out with some lore tangents like a champion if I'm not careful. But I do have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Gazelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I just finished the tutorial, and it gives you a literal survey in the middle of the screen. There's like a 4-question survey to determine what your starter stuff is. It's kind of odd. It's a multiple choice question survey.
I did not like that when they introduced it because it gave me something already unlocked, and I was really upset. Also, the stuff it gave me had nothing to do with the answers I gave it.
So what you're saying is it gives you stuff and there's interaction.
I got a mechanized assault exosuit max, apparently. I have no idea what that is. It doesn't tell you what it is, it just gives it to you.
It's an MTAC.
I think that means that you're risk averse and you need a lot of HP and you don't have a good gun game. Is that kind of what your survey said?
That might be true.
Okay.
What was the first question? Was the first question, did you die in the tutorial?
There's nothing that shot you in the tutorial. It's a completely passive tutorial.
You didn't duck fast enough and hit that low-hanging bar.
Yeah, I know, right? I got it because I did say I wanted to do a lot of damage to vehicles and that I liked versatility and a few other things, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Okay, all right. So, Sedgeway complete. So I guess I want to go back to I'm serious. I could go into a huge, loregasm over all this stuff, which I can easily do. But I did want to get back to a fundamental question. Is it a good idea to give every player from Jump Street a quote unquote war barge, or is it something that they should skill into?
I think that's fine to start off with, especially with what they're talking about. Having to build platforms onto the barge. I mean, it's you're essentially giving a player an empty shell to then go and do stuff with. So it's not like you're giving them a Cadillac, right off the bat. You're giving them this crappy POS that they need to buff up and fix the suspension and all that kind of stuff.
No, I'm just kind of thinking that I hear so many people griping about how hard it is for new players to grasp things like drop suits, and then we're going to add war barges on top of all this, yet there's fundamentally not really going to be any updates to the new player experience, i.e. a tutorial, unless there's some shit going on that I don't know about, which is very likely. But I guess, and there's a small part of me where it's like I kind of would like you to earn it a little bit, and I don't mean the threshold has to be particularly high either. And actually, I think it should be fairly low, but I think you should stick around in the game long enough to understand enough of the game before you start dropping war barges on, no pun intended there, but handed somebody some shit like a war barge.
My notion is that I kind of want to say I agree that you should have some sort of minimum bar to maybe save up and buy the barge at the beginning, but the one issue there is a few bonuses involved in the war barge system as it's currently defined that probably they provide advantages, and I would not want new players to be gated out from them because it would add to the amount of disadvantaged new players already have.
And it seems like the war barge, until it's upgraded, is pretty useless. I mean, you've got to actually, work towards these upgrades to get any kind of real value out of it. So, I mean, yeah, you're giving everybody a war barge, but they're not going to be able to do anything special with it until they start, putting some upgrades into it.
Do you know if there's any hint that they may give you retroactive credit, kind of like the way they did with the the rank structure?
No, there will not be.
Oh, that's kind of bullshit.
Well, a couple of things with it is it's not exactly passive like our skill tree is, where you can just go away for a month and come back to 2 million skill points. The war barge components, they'll fill up and they'll stay filled up until you empty them. So you actually have to try to maintain these things, run these things, and upgrade these things, and it's part of active gameplay and progression.
Sounds like Ratai's been playing some Warframe.
Yeah.
I've died twice now. I killed one guy, though.
You've been playing for 45 seconds.
So, okay. All right, go ahead, Pokey.
No, I was just saying that the war barge, in a way, sounds similar to kind of the new player experience they did in Warframe, where you get a little ship and you have to do things to upgrade it to unlock systems and get bonuses and whatnot. So it sounds very similar. Not that I dislike it. It's just it does sound very similar.
Okay. All right, I'm all good.
Think of it as a way to keep the player invested into the game. Oh, I've got a ship in Eve space. I can fly around. Yay. Eve Pilot B, yo, gangster.
Yeah, and now that actually, BAMM, brings up a good question. So these things are not actually ships, right? These are just, it's your Merc quarters is now it's inside your own ship. It's not inside a station, right? Then that's really the only difference the player sees.
Well, technically, you're still in the station. I would think.
Okay, I thought somebody just a minute ago said that instead of being in Merc quarters, you're in your war barge.
Well, I mean,
I
don't think the local channels are changing. So, I mean, I guess you can't really see a station technically.
So I'm going to be floating outside the station in my war barge. Space is going to get very crowded.
I wish. Yeah, and these aren't real ships in Eve, right? These are just just dust made up shit, right?
Yeah, for the time being, yes.
Oh,
for now.
So there's plans for them to be for realsies?
I wouldn't call them plans, but it's more like the potential.
We have I could go on for hours about all the cool things I think they could do to build the war barge system into various things down the road.
Okay, so real quick, we're going to play a game. Iron Wolf and let's see, Iron Wolf and SMB and Soraya are not allowed to speak for the next 30 seconds. BAMM, can you name me the date that you think Dust actually slayed Legion or Legion failed and now they're hanging their hat back on Dust? Pick your date.
Legion failed on the 12th of September 2014 when they realized they made a colossal fuck up from launching it, or saying it wouldn't happen in FanFest.
Okay, fair enough.
I believe Legion's coming to the PS4. That's my tinfoil hat theory. It's not coming to the PC. They are going to launch it. A case in point is a game called Loadout. It's been going on the PlayStation 4 for about a month and a half now. It's got 250,000 downloads with an active daily player base, not monthly, player day, whatever, I'm drinking, sorry, of 180,000 people. Dust has 300,000, according to CCP, monthly. So putting on the PS4 is a good, clever move.
Okay, Kane
but that's
Spero.
my crazy opinion.
No, that's fair. Kane Spero, can you please pick me your date for the betting pool that Legion died and Dust is now a thing again? He's thinking. Pokey, your turn.
I don't remember the exact date, but the day that Rattati released the Quaif suits and CCP realized that Dust could actually make money again.
Fair enough. Okay. Kane, are you back? He's not back. Okay, I'll pick my date. I think it was the date that the roadmap was released to the general public on Dust that looked strikingly similar to many of the things that we were told we were going to have a year prior. Okay, all right. CPMs, you can now unmute yourself. Okay, so next thing about war barges. There's a lot of talk about modules and platforms and things you can upgrade and do stuff with as a player to, I guess, kind of customize the benefits of the war barge to you. Can you guys, just generally, whoever knows, because I'm not really sure if there's anyone given expert on any of this right now, generally, what kind of things are they looking at for you to be able to upgrade or do with your war barge? How is it going to help you?
Oh boy, the list of potentials were just freakishly massive, more massive than their current technical capabilities were.
Let's keep it to I guess what we deem as the most likely. And I know that's kind of a stretch. I know that we're really taking a wild guess at it, but what do we think is the most likely things that the players will end up seeing over the next 3 months?
Definitely things that will affect the end of game payouts and currencies will be the most prominent features for the time being. But as we continue to explore the technical capabilities of the war barge, do expect future things such as crafting to be put into the works.
Okay. So we're looking at ways of increasing LP, increasing ISK. All right. And anything else? I mean, what can they do? Because we don't have a lot to work with in Dust right now. So what other things might they be able to do? Like in-game benefit, maybe?
That has been the touchy subject that we cautioned against because, like I said, if you put an in-game benefit such as plus damage, that'll be the thing that every player wants to go hit up first, and they're going to outlevel that as soon as possible. And that's also possibly causing a gap widener, which is why we're trying to push for HP instead, since that will be more beneficial for a new player to have. But there are a whole bunch of potentials we could do for in-game benefits, but that is like a really touchy subject. We got to be really careful around that.
One of the benefits that Rattati mentioned that I guess they're exploring, and he mentioned it in his thread that he put out, was the possibility of an increased number of fittings, which I can tell you I'm very excited about. I'm, someone who's got like 10 suits protoed out. I play in multiple classes, mostly Logi still, but I've got a ton of Logi suits. I mean, I'm right up to that 30 mark already. So, and all the time I'm either erasing something and adding something new because I come up with some new idea for a fitting that I really want to have, and I got to drop one, in its place. So, to be able to increase the number of fittings, I think would be a really cool perk that results from your war barge upgrades.
And stop telling people it's lame.
I know, but one thing I've heard on the forums, though, and I think it's kind of a little bit warranted, is that something that really should be gated by a gameplay mechanic, or that should be just a general quality of life improvement by allowing people to have more fittings?
Well, the thing is, though, by the time you actually get to that point as a player of the game, you should already be in this point with the war barge in terms of progression. So hopefully the two together will vibe with each other instead of as it is currently, we're stuck with our current max fittings.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards the idea that I don't know that this is something that is war barge worthy. I would just like because basically what you're doing is if you think about it, it's a big spreadsheet in your freaking laptop in space where it's like, here's my fittings, please order this or please do X. I'm not sure that it's something that I think is significant enough that should be hung to a war barge module. I think it should be just, like I said, a quality of life improvement. Does that kind of make sense?
Well, only as the design document states, it says this plus something else, because they're not going to try to ship it with itself, apparently. And I have to agree, just by itself is rather a little lame, so I would like to see something else mixed into it. Maybe an armor HP plus something, who knows?
Okay, all right, so just generally in reference, in-game mechanics, or the in-game benefit of having a war barge. When I say in-game, I mean specifically in a match. And I do appreciate the fact that Rattati did mention very specifically that he is sensitive to the concerns about it, and that they're definitely taking a hard look at it. But I think it's one of those where I hear enough people griping and bitching about the passive bonuses that you get from SP investment and just the skill tree, as hosed as the skill tree is now, and then stacking something else onto it, and it just, I don't know, it's just one of those I'm just not comfortable with right now. I'd really have to hear more before I kind of sold myself on that one. Is that kind of fair?
It's really a slippery slope. I mean, if the bonuses are really small, then it's like, okay, so what? And then, but if they're really, if they're significant, do you start getting into an issue of, okay, well, we now have another veteran over new player advantage.
Well, there's I mean, this is very there's no mechanic that you put into the there's without some extreme exceptions. There's not many mechanics you're going to be able to introduce into a game that won't benefit veterans more than new players. That's just kind of the reality of it.
Yes.
So, quick update here. As a new player, I'm able to successfully kill vehicles, which is kind of nice. And while I was getting farmed and revived a fair bit by kind of a cluster of crud, the revive actually has an accept reject button, and I give them credit for that because I've been asking for that in Dust since forever.
And you don't get a kill, and not only that, either it heals a kill, like if you get revived, you get a kill scrubbed off your records, or it doesn't actually count until you spawn again. One or the other, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, we've been campaigning on that one for a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I had high hopes for the revive function that we most recently got, but I got to tell you, I think the community is so shell shocked over the very long period we had of people getting picked up with garbage needles and being farmed that they don't trust anybody even with good needles now. So we do need the accept revive function, I think, at this point.
Yeah, accept a revive would be great, but at the same time,
they can jump out of vehicles and insta kill me though. So I don't know how great that is.
To me, kind of like Dust. Okay. Actually, to your point though, SMB, I think they did a great thing to make the needles better, but I rarely run a needle anymore just because nobody ever asked for revive.
Exactly. It's horrible.
The prompt is really what needs to change. Right now it says stand by for triage, right? It needs to be call for help, call for help. It needs to be you need to actively do something to get the help. Because right now it's like, hey, wait up, help's going to come and get you. And so people don't always. One of the tricks I do is I run at somebody's downed body and then I'll run away from it so they think I'm abandoning them, and then sure enough they'll hit X.
Yeah, I really wish they would. I don't know how hard it is to put in, but like having an accept button would be kind of cool.
It'd be way better. Accept a revive would be significantly better.
Well, not only that,
very much agree.
I would even go one step further, and this. This is probably one that's debatable, but if I go through the trouble of going over there and giving you the the freaking heart shank with the big needle, I should get like some points whether you accept it or not.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
And it doesn't have to be a lot. I'm literally thinking like 10, 15 points, whatever, but which is pretty paltry considering what you could do with like a Wiracomi.
It's worthwhile for participating as part of the team, for at least trying, and if they accept it, then that should be even better.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
And again, I think the other thing is, in addition to needing a revive, accept, reject, you have to actually not count against. You can't count revived. Times you were brought back up as a kill against you because you weren't killed, you were downed. And
I would agree with that.
It is an incentive to properly play the game to not count it against you.
Yeah, the funny part about that is the effect it will have on like really competitive KDR mongers. Is it suddenly
they'll have to actually play like for Logi and stuff. It's absolutely, I think it's a no-brainer feature. But we haven't really made any success on that.
Okay, so as I steer the ship back to the war bargery, I have one last question two last questions. I'll start the first one. So is it possible to have a war barge like effect? Because we have war barge strikes. Can they do things for you, like adjust the strikes that you can bring in game, perhaps? Would that? Because that to me, if there was going to be an in-game effect, I would vastly prefer it to be something like that versus like a, like you get to carry 10% extra ammo, or you do 5% more like general damage, or some craziness like that. I would really prefer it to be associated with something that happens in the war barge screen, like in the map screen or whatever. Like you get other options or something. Is that possible?
Or like a faster RDV or something? I've heard that.
No, yeah, you're just soaking up with Godin. But what I mean is, like certain kinds of strikes are only accessible when you upgrade you can upgrade the type of war barge strikes that you deliver into a game, or perhaps instead of just a raw strike, you can do like the super scan, like you scan the whole map, that kind of stuff.
That actually reminds me a lot of the options that leadership had in MAG for things they could do, like a sensor suite was one thing, where it basically scan the entire map and so you get like a short, snapshot of what was going on, and have that be tied to the war barge. Maybe even something you could spend your war points on, and you could upgrade it with your war barge to make that effect stronger, or something like that. I think that'd be pretty legit.
Non-kill option.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just like ways you can support, like like a sensor sweep scan or something like that. That's a little different than you can modify it, like Jason said, with upgrading that particular sensor package on your war barge to make it have a longer duration or a better precision or something like that. I'd much prefer that over here's bonus damage that you can get and everyone will get because why not.
Yeah, I would. That's just like I said. It was something that we already pull in war barge strikes, so that to me seems like the most logical tie-in to an in-game effect that the war barge can deliver you. Like I said, just going out on a limb with that one. So my last question about the war barges, which kind of opens up into I was joking about it earlier. There was a separate thread that basically stated that specialist weapons will be relegated purely to the LP store, and then there was I think they called them overcharged weapons or overcharged gear or something like that would be something that you could produce out of the war barge, which sounds somewhere between that it fits. I'm not sure if it fits in between proto and officer, or if it's a side grade or an improvement over officer gear. Can you guys shed a little bit of light on that?
Well, technically, both of them would be, I guess, better than proto. Like this, the specialist gear in FAC War is it's proto stats with better fitting, I believe. So
Sure.
that would, they're better in that they don't tax your fitting as much, but provide the same amount of power. Whereas overcharged would be, I think higher stats slightly.
Yeah, the experimental weapons, he clarified and said that they're slightly better than proto, as in like 3% damage. I think it's a 10% larger magazine and ammo carry capacity, and like 10% faster reload. So they're slightly better, but they are
officer
indeed
weapons
between.
Will still spank them.
Yeah, officer is still overpowered, but they're between prototype and officer in terms of power levels.
Okay. So is it only weapons we're talking about, or are we talking about other modules and drop suits because like the rifles and all are great, but can I get like a fucking overcharged 6-skin rep tool maybe?
We're going to start with weapons first, but I'm pretty sure if we push hard enough, we can get equipment added in shortly afterwards.
When I hear the word overcharge, it makes me think of like an option that you could have with your your war barge support. Like Jason, did you see the Avengers? I know this is kind of a tangent, but
no, absolutely.
When like Iron Man and Thor are fighting, and Thor blasts them with the lightning, and all of a sudden Iron Man's suit's more powerful than it was before by like a margin of 200 or 400%, whatever it was. I think a cool war barge strike would be like an overcharge on your HP, like through your shielding. Like you could drop that on your squad. So instead of it being like a offensive strike, it's like a bolstering of your defenses that you drop on yourself. Yeah, and then you could go out and fight guys with enhanced HP for a short period of time. I think something like that would be really cool.
Would be actually pretty legit. That's what you're basically describing is almost like cap transfer in EVE, kinda, because when you do cap transfer chains in EVE, you can actually, if you do them right, you can actually gain more cap than you're transferring, if that makes sense. So I could kind of see, a linkage there where, and they would maybe perhaps, work like active modules and stuff like that, which, by the way, like that's one thing I really wish they would figure out how to do is put active modules on drop suits, like other than the cloak, by the way, just active modules in general. But that would actually be pretty cool, where you hit the overdrive button, and then suddenly you can get different types of suit bonuses. I could see a lot of different gameplay strategies coming off on that. You could let your mind run free with it, but the initial part of a match, you overdrive the like the myofibrils and the actual musculature of the suits, where you're moving faster so you can get to the initial points faster, things like that. Or perhaps you overcharge everybody's shields, something like that deeper into the match. Or for the final push, it's like sensor, everybody's passive sensor gains X percentage or something like that, even if you're not going to use a a sensor sweep or something from your war barge. There's a lot of different options I think that you could bring into play if you would go to almost like a warfare link. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Neve, warfare links.
My Eve knowledge is pretty basic. So
warfare link, and this is where I do my own little rabbit hole.
You outright cannot see Cloakies, or at least couldn't in this one. I was staring right at him when he just appeared out of nowhere.
Okay, so no change from Eve. Carry on.
No, a lot worse than Dust.
Sure. So in Eve, they've got these things called warfare links, which I have been a huge proponent of wanting a command suit in Eve. But basically, what they do is they provide these type of bonuses that you're describing, SMB, and this is how it works in Eve. Now they can be quite powerful, and you can stack several of them in Eve if you kind of know what you're doing and you have the right skills trained. But that's kind of what you're describing is maybe a warfare link like system that's inherent to the war barge. If they're not going to have a command drop suit, which I would really prefer, if they're not going to do that, then I would really like to see some mechanic like that brought into the war barges as an in-match advantage that's more team focused and not just based on an individual. So that way, it's not about an individual getting a bonus. It's literally about a like a squad or perhaps the full team getting a bonus, something like that.
Yeah, I think it would be cool.
Yep, I think Ratatouille needs to go play Battlefield 4 for fully fleshed out squad bonuses, commander bonuses, and so on and so forth. He might learn a thing or two about it there.
Actually, I'm pretty sure Rattati actually does play Battlefield 4. He mentioned playing it over Christmas, in fact.
Well, then that's where he's getting his ideas from, because it's pretty well fleshed out. The squad bonuses you get from Battlefield 4, each member in your squad fits a different perk, which means your entire squad is granted all those perks. So additional explosives, additional HP, an additional defensive bonus, additional cloakiness as well with tugs and stuff, I guess. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If this is where Dust is going, hallelujah. He's seen the light.
Okay, so it's not like just the squad leader has the bonuses. It's like if you've skilled up, is it like a skill or that you have to fit, or is it like a piece of equipment or something?
Each class is a sniper, engineer, medic, and support. Each class has its own specific bonus that you can unlock. Okay. But then you can say the medic takes an additional regen or revive bonus. Then everyone gets the bonus. The support guy takes an additional heavy ammo bonus. Everyone gets extra ammo. The engineer takes the extra rockets bonus, which means everyone gets extra explosives. The sniper then takes the bonus to the squad that gives you less visibility to when you get spotted, because in Battlefield 4 you get spotted, so the spot doesn't last for 5 seconds, and it lasts for 1 second, so you become more incognito than what you already were. This is making me happy. Dust is yay.
That's actually pretty cool, the way it works like that. I was, like I said, I've not played Battlefield 4, so I was not aware of that. But I've long been a fan of having some kind of shared in-game bonus. Like I said, I think my true preference would really be to have a command suit that gives you certain perks as you skill into the suit and that kind of jazz. But if that's not, there's a lot of other ways to skin that cat then.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of ways to skin that cat. Case in point, if the commander of the game wants an objective taken so he can get a perk to drop a tank or drop a cruise missile on an objective to then clear it for everybody else, the team then have to work for that objective, gain it. He then gets the perk for a cruise missile. This is in Battlefield 4, though. And then he then drops onto another position. The team catch that. The commander then drops an ATV, a resupply ammo pack, a tank, squad. Yeah, very, very nice. I like it.
Okay. Okay. So, any other random thoughts about war bargery or any of that kind of stuff, guys?
Well, I think the big thing that we haven't really touched on is the fact that the barges themselves can actually looks like they're going to be becoming the manufacturing base for Dust, with the labs and stuff like that. I mean, it seems like you'll be able to make suits from basic all the way up to officer, depending on what you put into it and all that kind of things. So, I mean, it could actually open up a completely new dynamic of actually how to play the game and how to make ISK and all this sort of stuff. Because you could have people that just go around and manufacture items and sell them to people.
One example that Retati posted was building your own officer weapons, which would involve taking an officer weapon you don't like. For example, let's say you're skilled in assault rifles, and you get a gas-intensive officer forge gun instead. So you take a prototype assault rifle, some scrap, and the officer forge gun, and you mix that together, and you get assault rifle officer weapons instead.
So kind of your standard crafting of like blue mushrooms, red mushrooms, and fucking yellow diamonds equals like a +5 sword of ass whipping or something like that, right?
Well, in that case, it's more of a reroll of a weapon into something you are more likely to use instead of just random shit.
You're killing me. You take my random sarcastic comment and then you go all serious on it. You're gonna have to work with you on that. Okay. No, I did catch that. That does sound actually pretty cool. I'm kind of curious to see how much controls or granularity they give the players in terms of what they can build or what they can make. I would love to be able to, to tweak stuff like on the weapons, like, more rate of fire, less damage, or whatever. But I don't think I think they're talking about just creating existing things, not tweaking individual stats per weapon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like for the time being, but who knows where it can go after we get somewhere with it.
Yep. No, I think that's pretty fair.
So I'm moving with about 30 people somewhere, which is, I suppose, a notable thing that there's 30 people here that are on my team. But I have no idea what we're doing.
Are you on comms with them?
No.
That's probably why you have no idea. I'm not being facetious. I'm dead serious. I mean, that's like in a game where where there's more than like you having some sort of communications platform is probably kind of critical.
Come on, Zal, you play Dust. You should know it's a team-based game. You
I'm
should be on
actually seeing a defend order
comms with
now.
them, Zal. Come on, man.
What were you saying, Zell?
I said I'm actually seeing a defend order now, though. We're nowhere near it, though, so I don't know if maybe that's where we're headed.
That is NPC generated.
Oh, that's the game trying to help you figure out where to go?
Yeah, they call it their mission system.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's cool. Let's see. So at this point, we're going to go open mic. So whatever you guys want to talk about, like whatever random scrolls you want to bring up, we've got a little bit of time that we can do this while Zell continues to get owned in Planetside. So I will open the floor up, whatever you guys got, since we have, like I said, just kind of an open show tonight. So any topics you guys want to bring up to the table?
Well, something that's been that interestingly happened this week. There was a lot of the reduced squad size thread on the forums kind of lit on fire, and ended up with Rattati posting some stuff talking about squad sizes, team deploy, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including changing faction warfare down the line as well.
Perfect. So, SMB, can you regale us of what the future is for squad size, team deploy, and maybe team deploy?
Well, I'm not exactly super excited about the prospect of us dropping back in squad size from 6 to 4, but the winds of change are blowing, and it appears that there is a lot of support in the community to sort of go that direction, to go back down to 4. Now, the reason for that is it supposedly would improve matchmaking, make it easier for groups of 4 to be properly put against each other in matches, thereby making it a better experience for new guys, for solo players, and so on. Now, the flip side to that is, if we were to go to 4-man squads, apparently that will also make it more likely for us to perhaps realize, finally, larger groupings. 8 people, 16 people, of course, being ideal at some point. A full team deploy. Persistent, perpetual team deploy in some game mode. Now, it looks like faction warfare is the game mode that seems to be the target for that. At least that's where most of the discussions have been taking place, is relating that to faction warfare. But again, I'm not 100% pleased with that idea. I think it probably should happen if this is what the community wants, and I think that that's a good first step. But I think ultimately what we really need for larger groupings of 8 and 16 players is not only faction warfare for there to be team deploy, but there needs to be an opportunity for those larger groupings of players to also still enjoy ambush matches and dom matches and all of that. So while I'm okay with us moving forward with a plan that knocks pub squads down to 4 and opens up faction warfare to larger groupings of 8 and 16, ultimately I think the long-term solution needs to include a way for groupings of 8 and 16 to also play all of the game modes that everyone else can play as well, dom and ambush. So that's where what's that, court battles? Yeah,
court battle.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you could figure out a way to have a separate pub deploy system for larger groupings, you could essentially have your court battles. I mean, I don't know if you're going to have the UI necessarily that's nice and clean, but if you could get these larger groupings to queue sync and channels and be able to have, a full team deploy ambush match or team deploy dom match or whatever, I think that would be awesome. But I think that's where the discussion is right now, Jason. And while there are some people who are saying, don't change squads, this is one of the ways that I hang out with my buddies and we have a great time. It does seem at this moment that the majority opinion, at least that I'm gathering from the forums, and there might be a silent majority out there, I don't know, but it does seem that there is a lot of support for the 4-man squads right now. So,
well, I think something that's important though is if you move to have protected play, as so to speak, in pubs with 4-man squads, you really need the other side of the coin, which is something like faction warfare and PC, easier ways for groups of 8 and groups of 16 and so on and so forth, maybe made up of these components of 4, to get into matches together. Absolutely. The only concern I have with the more places you allow people to have large groups, the smaller those pools are. So like if you get everybody to all get together, if they're going to play in large groups together, then it's going to make the matchmaking a bit better. But at the same time, I don't know, like you have to have both. Like I don't want to see people get protected in pubs from large groups and then all of a sudden we get protected from faction warfare from large groups. I think that would be terrible. Like all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm sorry, but this 8-man group, you're too organized. You can't organize against other people in faction warfare when you have that avenue already in place with these reduced squad sizes. That may or may not happen in pubs.
Yeah, that's not only terrible, it would be unacceptable in my opinion. I think faction warfare needs to be the wild, wild west of Dust 514. I mean, we've got PC. Everybody knows that that's really harsh too. But faction warfare needs to be a place where there's some meta driving the outcomes of those matches. And if you constantly have a governor on faction warfare that makes it so that any sort of large grouping, like if you put a platoon out into a match where, any kind of like large deployment of 8 or 16, and if they're always going to be matched perfectly against another equal opponent, then essentially what you're saying is putting these teams together doesn't really mean anything, because the power that you're trying to create through numbers is being negated by a matchmaking scheme. So, you need to make it so that these alliances and these corps who go into faction warfare are potentially giving themselves an advantage by doing so and aren't going to be put in some sort of matchmaking loop where they only face people that are of equal strength. And for the solo players and for the weaker players that go into faction warfare, they need to understand that if they don't like the harshness of faction warfare, if they don't like that ultra competitive, difficult play, then pubs offer them all that they could ever want in terms of limitations on what they might face. So
my concern is that we recognize there's a difference between difficult/challenging play and creating a game environment where it is simply a smash, that a certain team is assured victory by the fact of the matchmaking system putting them together. That's the problem with saying you should be completely open and not try to balance things when you're talking about a game where the game is putting teams together, because the game doesn't give you an avenue to deal with the fact that you're at a disadvantage. the game, if without any sort of protections, the game puts you at a terrible disadvantage where there's not even a way to have a fun gameplay experience. There's no point in that game existing, and yet there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the difference between Dust and Eve.
Well, see, look, the thing is, though, Faction Warfare already has logic in the matchmaker that prioritizes larger groups. So basically, squads get slotted in before solo players. That's one of the reasons your queue time for a solo player is longer, because you get pushed to the back of the line and all those squads are getting put in first. So I think even if you go to 8-man and 16-man deployments in Faction Warfare, if there are people on both sides playing in that organized fashion, the probability is going to be that those people will end up facing off against each other. I think what SirManBoy is getting at is you don't say, okay, unless I find a 16-man group, you are not going to play at all. I don't think that's fair for that that organization level in Faction Warfare. I think it's going to try to get you a 16-man group or 2 8-man groups or a bunch of 4-man squads, but it doesn't have to. I think that's where the rub is. And with the more organized people getting kind of into the front of the line in terms of the gameplay and how the queue works, and then you have pubs that can work for smaller squads, solo players, that sort of thing. I think allowing there to be a dynamic between those two modes will actually allow you to have kind of an escalation of organization and teamwork and so forth that's really been missing from the game. You don't really have that right now. It's just kind of like Faction Warfare in a lot of ways is pubs. It's just like pub skirmish, except you don't get ISK, you get LP instead.
Yeah,
and that's something that needs to be fixed.
I think the biggest problem with Fac War is that the way you do rewards could incentivize certain types of play, and they're not doing that. Namely, that the rewards for Fac War need to be much, much more valuable than pubs, but at the risk reward that you will not get a good payout if you lose, so that your better players that are at least fairly confident that they can influence a match to the point of making it a win will have a good reason to do Fac War as their primary playstyle, and those who are not able to execute that confidence stick with pubs where they make more money as welfare.
And I think another thing too is, I get the concerns that Zell has. I think one way to overcome those concerns, and Cross and I have been sort of working on a proposal. It's been in sort of stasis for a while though, but is the idea of making the factional experience like the Alliance or Corp experience, where when you join a faction, and you would need to have some sort of like loyalty contract system that sort of locks you in, but when you join a faction, it feels like a second home. So like you might have your Corp, and the Corp might be an Alliance, and you have your channels for that, and that's great, and there's relationships that you establish there, but there needs to be a way to establish ties with people in your faction as well, so that it allows people to have a way to form ties, have these social bonds, and more easily find people to team up with in faction warfare as well. So I would like to see that. And I think if you had that in play, I think you would find that we wouldn't be worrying as much about the experience of the solo player in faction warfare matches or new guys in faction warfare matches, because there would be a framework that would allow them to be more successful, or to at least have options to go into these matches with allies that they can talk to and coordinate with and so on.
Well, I mean, I've got a couple thoughts on this. One, going back to just the raw number game, 4-person squads that I can snap together as modular blocks of, like, I can take squads of 4, make platoons of 8 equals team of 16 or whatever. I like that. It works very cleanly. If they could honestly add 4 more players to the match where you could have 3 6-man squads, I would probably prefer that. But apparently there's like no way in hell that we could ever add more than 32 total players to a match, which is ultimately one of the biggest limiters to I think the game period right now. So 4-person squads, okay, I can kind of work with that as long as there is the capability of Legoing those 4-person blocks together I think that's awesome. I will kind of break with S&B on something a little bit. I actually think that you should really only be able to do that in FAC War and PC, or at least you should not be able to put more than 8 guys together. Let me put it that way. So you should be able to form like a I don't know, platoon team, like a two team squad or whatever the hell you want to call this thing, 8 person.
It looks like we're farming their
pubs.
spawn area now. It's not appealing.
Okay, so you're playing with Nyan-San.
There's no red line. There's just kind of like a room that if you manage to, as soon as they step out of the room, they die.
Okay, so again, not that much different than Dust right now. So, but I do think that if in the pubs specifically, I don't think I would go with a full 16-man option. I think I would cap it at 8 if there's a way to do that, because you do kind of probably want to cater to some people that really do only play solo, I think. And the other thing is, I think you could have a mode, particularly in ambush, that is solo only. But I would say that's a mode, not not just the way ambush is. And again, that's just personal preference. But I'm 100% in agreement that in FAC War, particularly, being able to snap together a team deploy system is awesome. And what I would kind of offer to Zell on this is, it's been said many times, to include by Rattati, that this is a team-oriented game. It is a squad-oriented game. It is oriented on playing more than just with yourself. Even whether you're playing solo, you're still on a team with 15 other people, whether you're talking to them or not. So to me, it seems like having that team deploy option would just be another soft driver to get people to socially interact in the game. You don't have to, certainly. And frankly, back maybe 8 months ago, when FAC War was really starting, kind of in an upswing, you had very popular channels that you could go to for whatever gal mill, cow mill, a mar mill, whatever option that you wanted, and you could find enough people to form up a whole team by yourself. I don't think it would be very hard to do that, particularly when you start looking at that. And then, frankly, the root of it, faction warfare, factions are usually not like one person or like 3 or 4 guys. They are a component of generally something much larger, particularly in the vibe that they're going for in a New Eden style faction warfare activity. So I like the idea, like the thoughts of it. I think it would be better than what we have now. Now, that being said, I like it better than keeping what we have now. What I would really desire, though, is to have just more people in match. Like I said, 3 6-man squads would be awesome, but I don't think that there's any technical way that they can get to that. At least that's what they keep telling us.
Jason, let me just clarify my position just really quick, though.
He addressed me first. I'm gonna steal the spotlight. I'm gonna give you a minute in a moment. I just wanted to say, though, that it's not just the fact that it's solo players that I'm talking about. I'm not worried about solo players. My concerns about team deploy. I'm worried about the overall effective match experience in it if you put a full team versus a squad, because what you end up with is, even let's say they're even all 4-man squads. 4 4-man squads versus 1 16-man team, you already know the outcome. There's no point in the match happening because there's no way for a player to affect that outcome.
So,
yeah,
you should not have matches where
to me that's tough, because
there is no point.
If you're protected in pubs, then the gloves come off in faction warfare. I think that's a fair trade-off.
But again, the problem is that the game is putting you in a no-win situation. The matchmaking is saying you cannot.
No. You are choosing not to socialize, not to organize, and not to join faction warfare with a team of your own.
So you're saying again. So then you're saying that FAC War should be 16-man or go home. Then why allow people who are not 16 to keep?
Hey guys.
Organized.
Can I slip in a comment? Hey. The reason why that's so bad is because 4 4-man squads can't have a fun match versus 16 people. I'm gone now.
Oh, that was my point.
Leither.
And hi, Leither.
No, the point being that the game is incorrect. It's not okay that the game is not in a state where an in-battle 4 squads versus 16 people, even if they're probably going to lose, can't have an adequate match experience.
Welcome back.
That's a
Leither.
problem.
What do you mean by an adequate match experience?
I mean, like, you're pretty much going to get redlined. If you're not at the tip-top of your game versus someone who is even moderately coordinated in Dust, then you get steamrolled. The game is...
And again, I go back to, so your point would be what?
My point is that maybe there's a flaw in what we're arguing over, because it should be an intrinsic flaw with the game that people realize that four-man squads can't have a good game versus 16 people, as opposed to arguing whether matching those people like that is
I think,
the critical issue.
I think you're also, like, if you look at the way, and Kane actually described this correctly, the way the matchmaking structure works, I think the likelihood of getting one 16-man team versus four-man squads is exceedingly low.
I mean, that's neither here nor there in some way from the perspective that I'm approaching it from, right? Like,
okay, then how about you describe what you think the situation is? Because right now, I don't really hear anybody saying anything that's going to make Dust better. Because I'm kind of getting fucking tired of playing with the same 6 dudes, and not being able to play with anybody else except for waiting for 24 hours to play in a PC match.
I'm certainly not arguing. I would argue that both the game needs to be improved and that the matchmaking, that the grouping would need to be expanded. But this is directly to Zell more so than anyone else, is that the point is not that the match experience suffers because of the numerical scenario that we're presenting. The issue is that there is no way to have a fun game of Dust in that scenario. Dust is a game. This is something that I wish CCP would look at, and it would make them want to change the maps. But, like, Dust is not a game that you can play and get beaten by a fairly much of a margin better team and have a fun match. There are very few close games in Dust, and that's something that we should probably all consider a really huge problem. I always have, so that's my comment.
Well, I do think
you're
that the
totally
game,
not making any sense, Leither.
I think we had a lot more
you're
close
telling me
matches
right
after
now.
they fixed
Yeah, but you're telling me
matchmaking.
right now that you're experiencing not a lot of close matches. I'm giving you away by being able to put together more than a squad if you choose to increase your probability of getting on an even footing with the people that you claim are stomping so bad.
I'm not
really
claiming that
confused by
there's.
that.
I'm not claiming that they're stompers. I'm not claiming that and I'm certainly not arguing against bigger match sizes, bigger grouping sizes. Everybody around knows that I've been a big proponent of opening up FAQ War to larger grouping sizes. I think it's an issue that we dance around, however, and that Zell raises tangentially a point. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, but I don't understand.
I only
your
can
point.
raise a point if it's tangential to what I was actually trying to say, apparently.
No, it's not the case.
No,
From my perspective, I knew you'd say that, and that's fair.
Humor.
But look,
No, I'm with you.
you're saying I don't make any sense. I'm saying that there's a meta problem here, that the way matches unfold in Dust promotes redline games. This is one of the reasons that we talk about the red line a lot. This is one of the reasons why people talk about moving and not moving the red line a lot, and that it produces a lot of these echoing problems that happen with grouping, with portioning off parts of gameplay to smaller groups.
I'm not following you. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm really not following where you're coming from on this.
Is it all right if I jump back in?
Yeah, go ahead, SMB.
Yeah, so first, just let me address just something really quick about what you said, Jason, just to make sure that I'm being understood in the way that I'm intending to. So clearly, if the community is saying 6-man squads are a problem, then 8-man squads would be even worse in a pub setting. So I'm only saying that if you are going to have the ability for larger groupings of 8 and 16 to play in pubs, then they would have to therefore have their own pool to swim in.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they would not be in the general population at that point. They couldn't be, because if 6 is a problem, 8 and 16 would be a nightmare.
I honestly think you can just leave it to 4-man squads and pubs and be done with it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a Dom enthusiast, and if I'm going to lose my 6-man squads, I would hope at some point I'd be able to enjoy the Dom experience, at least down the road in the long term with a larger group. Now, I'm not saying that has to happen right away,
Well,
but
to me, can I offer something like the easy solution is then have something other than just skirmish and faction warfare rotation.
And that has been proposed, but there is a lot of hate against that idea as well. There's a lot of people.
Well, the downside for, like, honestly, Dom is not my favorite game mode, but
I think Dom is the worst game mode. I think they should remove it.
I would not be completely against Dom being in faction warfare. The only problem I foresee, though, is, let's say SirManBoy, his guys are really adamant, or let's just say player A is really adamant about getting a Dom, right, in faction warfare. So they queue up faction warfare match after faction warfare match until they actually get a Dom and play it.
That's the problem. Yep.
And inversely, you have people who only want to play skirmish in faction warfare and are used to playing skirmish, and they, as soon as they see a Dom map pop up, they leave. Like, that's the problem that I would foresee. And you don't want to, and if you make it a selectable option in faction warfare, the pool is small enough in faction warfare that if you make it selectable, that's going to actually cause even more problems.
Yeah, but here's the shocker: our player count raw is low enough that at some point we can't give every player what every player wants. That's the reality.
No, but you don't. I remember the days in which you couldn't actually choose. Like, you could you could checkbox different game modes, but if the game just holds you, it would force you into. Let's say I didn't want to play ambush, it would force you into ambush, even if you didn't select it, and you were actually, a lot of times getting people leaving those matches. I just think the leaving match problem would crop up. Even though, yeah, you're right. I don't think people would be able to step outside themselves enough to be like, oh, there can only be 40 to 100 matches at any given time throughout the entire population of Dust. I probably should go into this match. I don't think people will make that jump. I think they'll be like, oh, I don't want to play Dom, or I don't want to play Skirm with my 16 guys.
May I offer something?
So,
hold on.
I'm here in among like 9 tanks that I think all of the drivers are AFKing because the turret people are seemingly hoping to actually shoot something, but none of these vehicles are actually moving. It was pretty fantastic to see like 10 tanks driving through, even though I'd be terrified if any actual opponent showed up through that, they would just get face rolled. But now they're all just camping, sitting here. I think they're all AFK. It's really
okay,
weird.
Can we mute Zell, please?
Bam, hang on. Let me do some traffic control real quick. All right, SMB, you finished. Then Bam, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So, to what Leither is saying, listen, I think if you go to 4-man squads, you're increasing the chances of better matches in pubs. That seems to be the predominant opinion, and I think there's a lot of good reasons to believe that would be the case. But I think with faction warfare, yeah, I get that at first, if you've got teams versus non-teams, there might be a really bad experience that a lot of people are going to have initially early on. But the whole thing about meta is that people need to adjust. People need to make sure that doesn't happen again, or they maybe just need to leave faction warfare and go back to pubs until they create the social ties and bonds necessary to be more competitive in faction warfare. Something besides balancing schemes and mechanics needs to dictate outcomes in that game mode, in my opinion. And I don't think we're ever going to see that meta-driven sort of gameplay that we want in faction warfare until you do take the gloves off. But again, the other side of it is that with pubs going down to 4-man squads, now a lot of people can enjoy a much better gaming experience. So it's a give and take there. And there's danger, sure, but I think ultimately it provides 2 very unique, distinct experiences that would be, clearly something that people would enjoy. Your pub people would enjoy the fact that it's easier, it's more casual, and the people who want to enjoy something a little more competitive, a little more team-oriented would then go into faction warfare, and that would be a good time too. So that's just my response to what Leither said.
Okay. All right, Bam.
I think you're all wrong, personally. Everyone here is saying what you think people would enjoy. Jason, you've got a very good point. Leither, Lartha, whatever, has a very bad point, but you're both right and both wrong, and I personally think you're all wrong. Everyone's just wrong. You can't dictate what other people find fun. I have come across more tanks, dropships, heavy guns, assault rifle guys running around objectives that I've got no business being around, and seen my ass and lost those matches. But because I'm with my 6-man team, drunk with my ass or shooting the shit, I have laughed my ass off and had such a great time and lost those matches. You don't have to win a match to have fun. As long as you're having fun playing the game, who gives a flying fuck if you win the game or not? That's the point I'd like to make, and like everyone here to remember that as well. If you're having fun playing a game, so what if you win or lose? It's the people you experience the game with. No, shut up, you. If you're having fun, you're having fun. Talking about balancing and 6-man, 4-man squads, whatever CCP does to the game, they're going to do to the game. It's great we're talking about it. But if we're not having fun playing the game, then let's not play it. I turned on Dust, and I'm not going to lie here, I turned on Dust for the first time today in 2 weeks. I had an absolutely fucking cracking time. Lost most of my suits, all my proto suits are gone. I lost most of my matches, but I had a great time.
But my point is that it's not there's nothing wrong with losing, and I've had a ton of fun losing matches, but the point is that they were lost because the team failed to deliver, not because the matchmaking failed to match us. Those are fun matches where you actually have a good competitive match, and yeah, you win or lose. That's the point. It's not about ensuring you win. It's about ensuring that when you play, you have a chance to win, because there is no point in playing if you have nothing you can do that might result in a victory.
Oh no, I get that. I do get that. A challenging match when you either win by 1 or 2 points is a great match, and everyone comes like going, fuck me, good match, GG everybody, well played, I could have done better here, I could have done better, that's great. But at the end of the day, if you're having fun, you're having fun. If people want to protest stomp and have fun that way, well then let them. It's either here nor there whether you have a 4-man or a 6-man squad. That's not going to change what Dust is currently. Most of my matches today, I got proto stomped, I got red lamp. That was, about 12 matches out of the 30 I played. I had a great time with all of them because of the people I enjoyed playing with. Let's not lose sight of that.
I'd like to take one more crack at explaining what I was actually trying to convey.
Sorry, my dear, but whatever you have to say, I'm sold on my part of it. Again, your opinion's your own, my opinion's my own. I do appreciate you explaining yours, but you're talking about where I've understood it is that if I win the match, I've had fun. For me, whether I win or lose is not a deciding factor whether I had fun or not.
That's actually not. That's why I'd like to clarify, because I think I've conveyed myself somewhat ineffectively. The point I was trying to make is that matches in Dust, to use a term that comes up in Dota, they snowball. Okay, I'm not talking about the matchmaking. I'm talking about stuff that extends into PC. I'm talking about the way battles unfold in Dust is that the outcomes of matches snowball, okay? It doesn't matter. You can have very evenly matched teams, and often matches snowball because of the way the game is designed from the spawning system, which is very restricted, and you can be cleared out of areas very quickly and have absolutely no way to create a beachhead a second time, to the way the maps are designed, to where the actual game modes are designed without secondary objectives and with very, very concentrated tactical objectives. The comment I was trying to make as it relates to matchmaking, to opening up grouping, and to what Soraya was trying to say is that I think the concern shouldn't be that four squads of 4 get matched against 16, and I don't think people lose that match and have a bad time. I think the bad time part of it is not guaranteed. Like BAMM is saying, you can lose and have fun, but right now it's very rare to lose and have fun in Dust because of the way the game plays out to me, and that was the point I was trying to make.
Okay, I'll try to wrap this one up. I think I see what you're saying, but, and this is just my perspective, I don't see how that matters how many people, whether you're in a 4-man squad or for your solo, or if you got 16 people on your team.
It doesn't necessarily, but it informs the scenario.
Hold on. And the reason why is because, as we all know, we all claim that we want something, something social to drive the game. If they implemented team deploy tomorrow on Monday, by the following Monday, the number of teams, 16-person teams that would be entering into faction warfare, would be significantly higher in 7 days. And by the end of the first month, or even the first 2 months or whatever, by the time the next patch came out in like 6 weeks or whatever, you would have some very organized people running a lot of matches, and you would get mostly probably 12 to 16 man teams with a short squad piling in. That's probably what would end up happening, and then basically it would even out to a degree. That's why I don't think it's a problem. And the other component of that is you're describing greater gameplay mechanics that have an impact on this. Sure, there's about 1,001 things that are restricting Dust right now, that the number of players in the team is mildly irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is, unless you adjust you can do whatever you want with payouts, but unless you physically adjust how many people you're allowed to interact with on your own terms, kind of in the 3 tiers of matches, there's really nothing that separates a pub skirmish, a faction warfare skirmish, and a PC skirmish. The only separating factor really is the amount of people you can actively socialize with on your own team, win or lose. So that's just, I'm gonna call this one to a close on that one. I think everybody's got their own perspectives on it. I'm a big fan of, if you're enjoying playing with the people you're playing with, you're going to play with them a lot and you'll probably get better. That means you're going to win more than you lose. But I also know some of the funnest matches I've had were where we lost. But I thoroughly enjoyed the people I was playing with. So I see it from both sides. And I think we'll call it good on that one. In the interest of time, I think we're going to go ahead.
What did you start, Jay? What did you start?
Apparently a grease fire, but it totally didn't mean to do that. So all I got to say is I'm glad that at some point, if I have the option to bring in more than a squad of people, whatever that squad size is, I'm happy. So I'd like to do a quick round of shout outs, and then we'll wrap this one up. So we're going to go from the bottom all the way to the top this time. So Soraya, why don't you give us your 30-second impression of Planetside and a shout out.
Yeah, my shout out is to Planetside for giving me something to do during this podcast, other than stare at my screen and stare at the recording timer and the channel of the Skype. I honestly, it is better. I'll say it's better than I saw it 2 years ago. So kudos to them for that. I still don't think I get it. The perks of this. It's open worldy, I guess, but I'd much rather actually have like a match. But that's just me.
Okay. Let's see. SMB.
Yeah, a couple things. I just want to give a shout out to Ratati and his crew for apparently, and I unless I'm just wrong, sneaking in that war barge strike meter that they have up now. You can see how many war points you have, and that definitely helps you make intelligent decisions with your war barge strikes. So that's pretty cool. I really dig that. Not to continue this discussion on Team Deploy, but I just want to shout out to you Mag Bros, you Team Deploy supporters out there. Now is the time to get on the forums and say your piece. Say that you want this in Dust 514. We've been waiting long enough. I think we finally have an opportunity to get this in the game. So it's time to open your mouths and share your thoughts. And I know some of you have not been very vocal on the topic. The Contraband Joes of the world out there who are big supporters, for instance, from the Mag days where he was the corp leader over there at Pro. All you guys need to come out of the woodwork now and start saying you want this and that it has to be in the game. And I think we're closer than we've ever been. The discussion's finally going in the right direction. And of course, I want to give a shout out to everybody over at Molon Labe. Love you guys. Things are going great as always, and that's it. That's my piece. So thanks for having me on, Jay.
All right, cool. Pokey?
Just a shout out to everyone that's on the show and off the show that's hopping into the show. It was amusing to say the least, but I always appreciate the conversation here and on the Skype channel. So thanks to everyone who tunes in and listens to us live. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, Kane?
Just my usual shout out to the desk community for sticking it out still, and also for all the people who have been like trudging through like the Have feedback thread and like focusing on that and spending all the time. Because dear God, I've been seeing work that people have been putting out for doing the feedback on that thing, and it's insane. The spreadsheets that I've been seeing coming out of people, like good stuff, but just like the work that people are putting into it's crazy. So big shout out to those people.
Awesome. Iron Wolf?
I also like to give a shout out to the people who are giving feedback to the vehicle thread and giving me something to do now because now I have to like compare everything. I want to give specific shout outs to Pokey, Breaking, and Thaddeus for their hard work so far. I am very open to seeing more information input, so if you actually got good ideas on how to do things, let me see it, and I'll try to get them all compared together.
Good deal. BAMM?
Hey, I don't really have anyone to shout out to, apart from you guys for letting me come on and ruin your thread or your podcast again. Thank you very much, and good night. I'm going to go drink some more beer.
MPRUs are actually like a thing in this game. That's kind of cool.
Word. Okay, so a couple of quick shout outs for everybody that came on the show. So all the guests, really do appreciate it. Leither, totally appreciate you doing the drive-by guest thing. That was actually kind of cool. Although I have to admit, your entry was a little creepy. But other than that, I really enjoy the conversation back and forth. I mean, and generally nobody got really heated about it. We were just trying to, I think, desperately understand where each other was coming from. And then once we thought we knew, we were slapping each other down. So I do appreciate everybody coming on the show and having a good chat about it. Props out to CCP Ritati for effectively turning the Dust community into part of his development team, which is basically what I think he's done. So he's harvesting a lot of ideas and work from an engaged community group, and he's sort of the arbiter of the ideas that are percolating up. And I think that's probably a good model for the position that they are in. Although every day that I look at the Trello board, or every day I see the roadmap, or every day that you hear about a new Booyah feature coming out in Dust, it makes me very tinfoily. It makes me want to go drink some beer and eat bacon with BAMM and.
You're more than welcome to come along the side, Jason. Yeah. Come along to the dark side, dude. Come on. You know you want to. You know you want to. Come along, dude. Come along. Come to the dark side.
I do. I like I said, I really appreciate the work he's doing and the way that he's interacting with the community on this. Let's see. I think that's about it for shout outs at the moment. Generally, I really appreciate all the fun we've had on the podcast. I have one quick shout out, actually two. The Podside podcast on the Eve side, the guys that helped us get started. They're still going strong. Highly recommend you check them out. A lot of interesting topics going on in Eve if you're into it. Then a big shout out to a guy named Random McNally. He's another podcaster on the Eve side that I've done some work with here recently. Really good dude. So check out the High Drag podcast on Eve. Very friendly to new bros. So if you're into it or you just want to hear about some things going on, it's probably a fun podcast to listen to. So with that, guys, we're going to bring this episode to a close. We really appreciate everybody listening. And again, as always, feedback is welcome, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm a huge fan of reading the emails that say Soraya sucks. I'm just saying. So please send more. But on that note, no, seriously, guys, the feedback you guys give us either in the Skype channel, on Twitter, or the occasional email, very helpful actually in how we tune the show. And I would like to note that Soraya actually played it straight when he was playing Planetside 2. I was fully expecting it to be like one big troll bomb the whole way through of this sucks, that sucks, and dust rah rah rah. But I think he actually gave you I think his silence on some things and in his commentary was actually pretty much true to form in terms of what you were probably hearing about Planetside. So kudos to Soraya for at least trying to play it straight on the review of Planetside. So guys, we're going to bring